I find myself in the situations where I'm like, okay, I need to replan the day. Like 30% of this day is a waste of my time. This is not a productive way to use this day. So I replan it completely.
You're listening to 15-Minute Mastery, a show that empowers you with insights from leading iGaming experts to enhance your personal or business performance. The show is brought to you by the AI-powered data analytics platform Blask and supported by tech-driven affiliate and media company Already Media, Lala Stars, the leading casino partnership program, and Next.io, the world's iGaming community.
Hello everyone and welcome back to 15-Minute Mastery. Today we've got Dmitry back in the hot seat. He's spoken a lot recently about his journey to becoming a productivity monster. So we're going to explore some of his learnings during that process. Welcome back, Dima.
Hey John, nice to be here.
Okay, so I think one of the perhaps toxic messages that exists in entrepreneur culture today is that you need to be grinding non-stop every day, 18-hour days. But just because someone's working an 18-hour day, it doesn't mean they're actually productive, right? So how do you differentiate between essential and productive work and busy work?
Yeah, I think I've been that person myself who found myself miserable when my calendar is not full with the calls, with non-stop meetings, like sync up calls, with people, etc. But it took me a while to realize what is the difference between all these meetings and how they affect my productivity, and the most importantly, the end goal and the result, right? So I think one of the most important things here is a proper planning. So what I do twice a week is I do once per week, I do the whole week planning, which is happening on Sunday. So I plan my whole week ahead with what are the key meetings? What is the goal of these meetings? Should I be there? Should these people be there? Right? Why I need to have 12 people on this call? Should these 5 people just go and do their own stuff? Right? So this is very, very crucial because sometimes I might find, irrelevant people on the calls. And if the call doesn't have a clear goal, what we need to achieve during this call, probably this call is unnecessary. So this is thing number one. Thing number two is the daily planning. Every day I wake up and I look at what's inside of my calendar. What is it for me for today? What kind of calls I have? What kind of targets I need to achieve? What kind of tasks I need to go through? So this is crucial because if you understand that your calendar is filled, like as you mentioned, with busy work, which is just the work for the sake of work, it's not a great day, right? I try to immediately recalculate and I try to understand how do I get there? How did I get there, right? Why these meetings are here, right? So sometimes, I remember even now, me being a super productivity focused, I find myself in the situations where I'm like, okay, I need to replan the day. 30% of this day is a waste of my time. This is not a productive way to use this day. So I replan it completely. So I think the key essential point here is understand your goals, and this is where the whole week planning sets you for this kind of goals. Trying to understand what are key 3-5 achievements you need to achieve during this week. Is this a presentation you need to do? Is this a business planning you need to go through? Is this a marketing strategy you guys need to come up with and build, right? And then if it's not, if your schedule within the day is not getting you closer to the target, you need to replan it. So I think sometimes, a lot of people, they drown in all this non-stop calls and meetings and catch-ups and sync-ups. And the question for me is always can I replace this call with a Telegram message or email? If the answer is yes, then it's a waste of time for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And I think within that, the biggest struggle that a lot of people face is they're not in control of their time. They're allowing other people and other commitments to control their time. So they do start drowning day to day. So for you personally, how do you create those boundaries and rules to avoid distraction and unnecessary calls, busy work that is caused by other people's demands?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to a very important question any person should ask is like what is my role right now? So if I'm like a marketing manager of like an operator company who just started their job, it's going to be painful for me to say, I don't want to get on these calls. So I don't want to be here. So this is the moment when you might go against the corporate culture and the way the company has been built since day one. So you will be like a rival in a way and a misfit in a way. So I don't think that's a great job. So the first question you need to ask yourself, what is my job? Can I influence the company's culture, and what I'm doing here? What is my goal? What is my task, etc. So, and then you need to answer this, like, is this call for good? Is this call getting me to my goals or not? This is where you might come up to your linear manager as a junior guy and say, listen, these calls are taking my time, these calls are unproductive, these calls are not allowing me to get to my goal. I need to overwork now to be able to achieve my targets. So this is where you need to be very clear, you need to be very transparent, and you should not be afraid of showing that you're committed to delivering the goal, but these calls and distractions are against it. So this is, if you're like an employee, if you're a founder, if you're a C-level guy who has the power to be able to influence your company's behavior, then this is probably where you need to be the one who is setting boundaries. This is where you need to be protective with the time of your employees. This is where you need to be able to be that guy who is saying, like, these are the boundaries, and you need to obey, not in an unhealthy manner, but you need to be the ones who are understanding why it's here and why it's protective against your time, right? I keep referring to this example of Max Tesla, but I remember when we had this conversation, he done a calculation. He was like, "Oh my God, our people are spending like hundreds of hours on the calls. We get these developers, we distract them. They're the ones who need to be focused all the time. But if their day is like distracted with non-stop calls, this is where they cannot switch the context this often, and this is where they're distracted and unproductive, right? So he's done a research, he's done like a full replanning of the company's calendar and structure, and we've noticed how impactful it was on the company's performance, and the most importantly, the most crucial people, like as the software developers and product managers, etc. So I think I would have divided this into like two layers: someone who influences the company, strongly influences the company culture and the schedule, and someone who needs to follow the culture. So this is very different, and you need to be very careful not to go against the system, but to try to slowly influence the system and to be that voice within the organization who is fighting for good and trying to come up with the best possible changes for himself and for the company's culture and for the productivity of the organization.
Mm-hmm. And that was a great example there that is going to lead very nicely into this next question. But what ways can leaders mentor their teams on productivity, improve their output, but without micromanaging?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because to be able to mentor and lead, you need to lead by example. If you're not that kind of a person who lives by its own like rules and being distracted himself a lot, this is impossible. Just try to think about it that way. You come to the gym and you see the person who is terrible with his like view, like a form, physical form. Someone who is drinking, eating unhealthy food. This kind of person will never be able to influence someone who wants to obtain a healthy and fit body. The same is in organization. If you are, as the leader, is not following these rules, you will not be able to influence. So you need to start with yourself. And I don't think it's like about the leadership or mentorship within the organization. It's everything in your life. This is your family. If it's your family, if this is your friendship, anything, you should start with yourself. And this is where you, as the leader, need to be able to apply all these learnings on you and test it, whether they work or not. In case of Blask, which I mentioned before, we started with us. Me and Max, we started with us. And once we've noticed these changes, they work, we became ambassadors of these changes. And this is where we've influenced the people by our own example. So I think this is how it should work. And if you don't believe in it, this will never work. And I came with this like unhealthy body example. I remember I was terrified when I read this. I think it was Elon Musk or someone who said, like, if you cannot control your body, you cannot control your probably team and your leadership style, etc. Because you're a weak person. I remember I was terrified because I thought this is way too rude, to people. And someone might have like hormones problems, some might have like psychological problems, which is not allowing them to get fit, etc. But I've realized that no matter what in your life, with discipline and with a proper passion, anything can be achieved, right? And I became a fan of a high performance culture myself, where if someone is not performing the way we want him to perform, if someone is like taking non-stop day offs, etc., I'm becoming like someone who doesn't like this culture, because I want to lead by example, and I'm a crazy productivity guy, and I want people to be healthy, to be fit, to be like productive at their work. And if I'm like that, I hope to motivate people and mentor that way. But if no one is listening, then probably he's not a person for right culture, and probably this is not the right person for my organizations.
So you also touched on a really great point there about how your overall health has such a huge impact on your performance. So what routines and habits are supporting consistent high energy performance over time for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I spoken about it in episode with Leo recently, and this is where I'm a guy that wants to test everything on myself first before recommending this to someone. And I've realized that a lot of things which are working for me might not work for other people, right? So I think the physical changes which I've done with myself this year were probably insanely impactful towards the productivity, where my body is not feeling that crazy muscle ache when the day is finished, because I sat the whole day, or either my head is not hurting because I had way too much drink yesterday and ate unhealthy food before I went to bed, things like this. So I've realized that alcohol was one of my biggest enemies. And the moment I realized I want to be the baddest, the most relentless entrepreneur in this industry, I've realized I don't have the excuse to wake up tomorrow and feel unproductive. If I want to be the absolute best in this industry, I want to be the absolute best in my body, in my mind, and my physical conditions as well. So I don't want to give no one's handicap in this world, in this industry. And if I failed, there is only me to blame. So alcohol became one of the biggest enemies. Unhealthy food, I'm still like trying to get away of sugar, but it's not working that well. A lot of stuff is going not the way I want, with my sleeping schedule, especially when I travel a lot, with my eating habits when I travel a lot. So this is something which I'm yet to kind of uncover. But I think we've spoken about it a lot in Leo episode. I highly recommend you to listen to it. It's probably one of the best podcasts I've done in forever. So this is a really good one. But I think you should start with yourself, with your body, with your mind, and the way they talk about it. In the healthy body, there is a healthy mind. So I was one of these people who never believed and never listened, but I'm the one who is like an ambassador of this approach. And probably I wish I would have listened like 10 years back. Then probably I would have been like a multi-billion dollar empire way earlier. So but now it's the time.
Mhm. And knowing you, I know you've probably taken a bit of a marketer's approach to improving your performance. You've researched what you need, you've tested it, and then you've decided whether to keep it or get rid of it, right? So, how are you measuring personal productivity, the changes you're making, and whether it is something that's effectively impacting your time?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think I judge it by the output, most importantly. Whether the same amount of hours I are producing me the bigger output. I'm a very, task management driven person. So I have every single task I'm going through every day written down, like in my own, like a personal manner. I'm a fan of getting things done approach. It's like a framework you can use to boost your productivity. So everything is written down. So I see and I look at the output. This is the thing number one. But most importantly, I look at my own like health conditions. I started using this Whoop device, which is showing me how well rested I am, whether my stress levels are high or low, whatever. So I'm looking at that a lot, and I see how it's impacting my body. Because when I wake up with like 98% resting score, I feel like I can, conquer the world. If I'm waking up with like, 1% of recovery, then I'm feeling really bad, and I need to find a way how to, boost my body with either, supplements or caffeine or whatever, which I don't like. And I want, my body and, mind to be very dialed in without any like external factors. So I think number one is the output. The task management is my number one friend. And the second is way my body feels. And this is where Whoop is helping me a lot. I might probably need to start the referral program for it. I speak about it way too much, but I really like the product. So I don't want to recommend something I don't like, but if this is helping me, so I'm becoming an ambassador of it.
Yeah, that's an awesome answer. And I think this is a really great episode, and one that we could probably record again in 1 year's time, because I think the key point is this is a process of evolution, right? So again, awesome answers, Dmitry, and thanks again for your time.
Thanks a lot, John. My absolute pleasure.
Cheers.
Cheers.